Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United at the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. But the whistle goes down. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United from the National League are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast in association with Lucky Star Gin. I'm your host Mike, and today's panel is Alex and Neil. We're going to be covering the little match against Altrincham, or Altrincham. I don't know where the D came from in the highlight show, but I'm assured it's National League TV, and we're going to look forward to the trip to Wealdstone. As always, I love putting the engagement thing here. It never flows off the tongue, no matter how I do it. But I do really, really appreciate all the engagement. And Alex, you're one of the ones who keeps liking and all the rest of it. So thank you very much. It does kind of do the algorithm's job for it. So it gets a picture in other people's names. All those on TikTok, you're just crazy. I'll put anything on TikTok and it's liked within like 4 seconds. And I'm like, okay. So thank you all much on TikTok. One little bit of housekeeping, I guess, is if you are a first-time listener and or viewer and you've joined because of the feature in the Matchday programme yesterday, you are very, very welcome. But I do have to stress some of the words were lials, and any complaints regarding the Trades Description Act will need to be directed to Lyle. But now let's get on with the oral and visual treat. And an oral and visual treat is what he put. It's
oh my god!
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know what that means. Yes, so yeah, take it up with Lyle. But yes, it was quite good. I like doing that, and hopefully we'll be able to carry that on throughout the whole season because I think it gives a nice little insight and a nice little crossover as well. We have, Neil had you on a couple of weeks ago. Nearly had you on Wednesday as well. But have you been since a couple of weeks ago?
Just getting happier and happier. So, it's great being a Sutton United fan again.
Long may that
it wasn't great last year, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Alex, great to have you back on. I didn't look up when the last time you were on was, but how was your break? And I hear there is some news of a new Sutton United supporter. So whichever you want to answer first.
I would think I was last on after Salford away, I think, last season, which was one of a few, a rare, pleasant away trip last season. That went very well. Good break. Enjoyed playing in the fans game with you, Mike. Course over the summer. Always, that was my first time in the fans game, and that was genuinely really, really good fun. So definitely do that next year. And just wanted a quick shout out. I know sometimes we do shout outs at the end, but a quick one at the start. One of the guys who you'll know, Mike, is a chap called Dan Golding. He's had a season ticket for a few years now, played in the fans game as well. And not only was yesterday his birthday, he was unable to make the fixture yesterday because he and his wife have just given birth to a beautiful little baby girl, Nova Grace Golding, and she was dressed in. She only arrived on Friday, and she was dressed in her yellow onesie yesterday, and we won 5-0. So I'm not saying she's a lucky charm yet, but she's off to a good start. So we've got another new Sutton United fan amongst us.
Well, I'll definitely be changing that name to I missed a 5-0 win because of you.
And I'm reliably informed that that's going to be washed and the same outfit will be put on Tuesday evening away for Hillsong.
Absolutely,
So, yeah.
for all time. Even when
Quickly
she's
and
like
washing
20, she'll have to have it as a hat or something. Congratulations, Dan.
Yeah, you'll be pleased.
And thank you, Alex. The fans game, yeah, my favourite memory of that was the only one contribution I think I made to the game is Paul had given us instructions at the start, and he was quite clear on his instructions. And everyone only ever sees Happy Paul, but I've played football with him before. And you, as the ball came in, you shouted keepers.
Oh yeah.
Like, don't ever do that again.
It was the keeper's ball.
It was, but he will tell you when it's coming. Don't ever. And the other bit was you're telling me to. I can't remember who it was. It was one of the whoever's on the wing or on the overlap saying, "Well, you go after him," and I started plodding after him, and you tried to tackle the man that you had, and then you ran back and passed me to get to the guy that you were telling me to catch. Like,
teamwork, Mike. It's teamwork.
Anthony, any chance we could? It's been 4 minutes, Mike. Get on with it. But yeah, they are real fun. So if anyone does want to do them, the more people that want to do them, the less chance I will have to. Right, we're going to move on to a new segment. I'm not going to play the video this time because I have the machine and I've worked out how to get it on the machine. So we're not going to have the video, but we're going to have the music. So good. The small wins, man. That's all you got.
So
celebrate
great.
all the small wins. So I wrote these questions in the summer. I didn't really think of long-term things, and the question you guys were set has been kind of changed already because it's what does a typical day look like for you? Neither of you can go on the curve anymore, although it was empty yesterday. I'm not bitter about that, Tim. So Neil, what does a typical game day look like to you? You can choose whether it was last season or what you think it's going to be this season.
So a typical game day is depending on whether my wife's at work or not. First of all, I've got to sort out somebody to perhaps look after the dog because living the other side of Oxford, it's a long day to Sutton, so a long day to leave the dog on his own. So that's the first thing. So a dog walk. Then I'll get in the car and I will head over and call in on my daughter, who conveniently lives on the outskirts of Woking. So that's a cup of coffee and a loose stop, being a man of a certain age. And usually there's a job or something that she needs sorting out. Yesterday was taking apart a redundant cabinet to go in the back of her little car to take to the tip. And then heading off to Sutton from there, and usually cursing all the roadworks, particularly at the moment the A3 junction, which holds me up forever. And then the fact that utilities can dig holes in the road everywhere to hold me up. So instead of getting to Sutton at 2:00, so I could work out where the heck the Collingwood Road entrance was and where I was going to stand, I didn't get to the ground till about 2:45. So it was a bit of a panic. So normally I'd aim to get there 2:00, meet up, see some friends, have a drink, sort of get myself orientated and look forward to the match and read the programme. So that would be a typical match day for me.
Oh, you went into full Victor Meldrew there, didn't you? With the traffic lights and the utility companies and all the rest of it. You can still come in the main gates, by the way, and you just walk around. It's not so you can. So if you're late, you'll obviously have to wait for the tunnel to go back in.
It was a new tradition. I was trying to new season, new luck. And now, of course, we've won 5-0.
Yeah.
I now have got to stand and do everything exactly the same now.
I'm trying to break that habit. I'm like, do you know what? I've got a chance to stop all this. I must stand here. Alex, again, new match day tradition, or what you usually do?
Yeah.
What's your match day look like?
The pre-match is the same this year as it is last year. I live up in town in Bermondsey, up in London, and so I get the train down. I can do a similar rant to what we've just heard about trains, but I'll probably leave that for the purposes of this podcast. But yeah, my parents and my grandmother live nearby Sutton, so I often pop in to see them before the game, particularly because my dad comes to the games with me, has done ever since I've been going, And that leads my mum to moan sometimes about how little she sees me. We always offer that she comes and she gets involved, but that is not to her fancy. So I do go and see her so that she doesn't mind me spending too much time with Dad. And then, we went in the main gate yesterday, and similar to what we've just heard, we were considering, it's in the opposite curver today, the new curve, if we're allowed to call it that, probably not. And we were going to do that for yesterday's game and then sort of move around different parts of the ground as the fixtures come upon us. But we will be doing exactly the same next week as we did yesterday. And that was the first half in that bit and then the second half in the Tard. It's basically going whichever end Sutton is shooting. And that will be exactly the same until results mean we need a change, which hopefully doesn't come. So that was it. And then often afterwards, stay for a drink and see Aid go mental in the draw, and I hope my ball comes out of strike as a key.
That's the usual one this year as well.
Yeah.
So mine was I'm desperately trying to change all this. Now Lottie's working behind the bar. It can change because she picks up on my little madness. So when I walk down a certain road and have to pass a certain lamppost to then cross the road, can't do it beforehand, she's like, nah, we're crossing the road here, just stop. It doesn't affect the game in any way. Then they did last year, they didn't really open the park gates because I was going through there, but I have been known to wait while whoever was on gate number one, turnstile number one, when they went for a loo break, and there was nothing going in the other gates. And I'm standing there waiting for Mark to come back to gate one because the steward's like, oh yeah, you're that guy. Cheers. And then so I'm usually in the bar now a bit beforehand, wandering around, saying hello to people, which is quite nice. I'm not sure how long I'll keep getting away with it because it's all been sort of shut down everywhere now, but it was all right yesterday. And then wander around, usually to claim my spot about an hour or so before. But again, don't need to do that anymore. I'll just kind of be free to go. Yesterday, I went in with the young'uns. And
with the ultras.
Do you know what? There's got something to talk about, but they were brilliant yesterday.
The noise was fantastic yesterday. Really good.
It already is making me go, okay, they're making use of this. I have always said, as long as it's a benefit, I don't mind losing my spot. I do, obviously. Yeah. But if there's a benefit, I can cope with it. And they did superb yesterday. So, I was just kind of in there with them, which was quite funny. Jenny joined me. But, the normal, everyone's kind of spread around a little bit, which would be good because especially for me wandering around, I can see different people everywhere. So, but let us know what your old or new match day looks like. There is a bit to talk about later on about the changes, and we will do. But very, very quickly, we've got some club news. Ladies' side won with a brilliant brace from Jazz today. So that is a great start for the new ground there. Although I hate to say it, Lucy, if you listen, that means the new 135 goal in 2 years striker didn't score for Sutton United. Have we ruined it already? I don't know. There was a lot on social media this week. A bit of ants, lots of engagement. Come on. But I don't know what you guys thought of the whole sort of who are Altrincham, where are they based thing. Alex, did you have much of an opinion, or did you kind of get it's not really for us, it's to get the name out there in front of people who don't know something.
It actually prompted a bit of a life crisis in that for the first time in my life looking at social media, I realized that this wasn't aimed at me. And I've suddenly realized that I'm in the bracket of being too old for the social media content to be aimed at me. But therefore, as a result, I mean, I saw this stuff. I wasn't, I don't know that I would have decided to do it myself if I was in charge of the social media team, but there's several reasons why I'm not in charge of the social media team. And it seems, as you said, Mike, I was talking to Claire about it, and she was rightly pointing out that any engagement is good engagement. I definitely wasn't as anti it as some of the comments on various socials, but I think, as you said in your video after the game, Mike, yesterday, did it raffle them? Did it work? Who knows? But all engagement's good engagement, so I can't get too worked up about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of us aren't going to ever understand about how that works, because it's like, well, surely no, it's not right. But I do know, and I did say to someone, if I completely flipped and made this whole thing about ranting and raving about how awful we are and how terrible this is, and just started just spewing out hate, engagement and listeners would go up by at least 5%, not 5%, 5 times, because people love hate. They love arguing. They love doing it. Obviously, I'd be miserable and I wouldn't want to do it, but it is one of the things. Neil, what was your take on it? Did you see it or did you just hear about it?
Yeah, I saw it, and I got asked by people on some national football forums that are on, about what my opinion was. And I didn't think it was intended to be derogatory. I think it was just a bit of fun. And then I did a bit of a social experiment. So I asked 10 people how they would spell Altrincham, and nobody could spell it. I asked the same 10 people where it was, and the only, shall we say, the more mature people had any idea. The younger people had not got a Scooby-Doo where Altrincham was. And then in terms, I couldn't name the 9 clubs in Greater Manchester. I forgot Wigan, because to me, I thought that was more Liverpool, because I always used to see signs for Wigan when I was going up to visit my daughter who was at Liverpool Uni. So I failed on that one. So I don't think there was anything derogatory about it. I think just people tried, as seems to happen these days, try and find offence where offence isn't intended.
Yeah. What I thought was relatively, I mean, I thought it was weird because we weren't playing in Altrincham. So it's like, what does it matter why we're telling people where it is? But I think it was the 4th one, I was like, this does seem like something that's going to backfire on us.
Well, do you think Altrincham, their club account, do you think they had picked up on it and there were loads of tweets in their drafts if they had won responding to?
If it had been the other way round,
yeah,
100% it would have.
And I wouldn't have blamed them if they had.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm wondering. I didn't actually ask Jack this directly, but I'm wondering if there was supposed to be another one for Saturday morning, saying something like, "You don't know where Altrincham is, but I can tell you where they'll be today. Gander Green Lane, 3:00. Come and get your tickets." I don't know. That's maybe me being overly generous. But Jack did say it went too far. He said I should have stopped it on 2 or 3 because it wasn't. It was taken not the way it was meant to be. But the engagement thing is huge. It's got the name out there. Lots of people, lots of national accounts talking about it. Neil, you said on a national forum they were talking about it. So it's kind of done the job. And yes, as I've said to a lot of people, we're all coming to Sutton anyway. So it doesn't actually matter what the Twitter account does, because we're going to be here, rain or shine anyway. And that was a little pun I made yesterday. No one got it. But yeah, so it was a bit of fun, but I think he sort of acknowledged it went a little bit too far. Excuse me, sorry. So also the news about yesterday, there was a lot of moving around, and as I say, obviously something wasn't right because the fans were in the park side, not on the curve as expected. Probably good yesterday, in fairness, because it was boiling hot, and that wouldn't have been nice. They also didn't have any beer in the away end either, which is just terrible. That's just not on at all. Someone's put on, well, what are you scared of Altrincham if they have a lager? And it's like, no, we'd rather you spend your money. So I'm not sure why that happened. But the big thing is, and I'm sure Claire's repeated this yesterday to many people, try it, try the new things, try and keep an open mind. It is a change. Give feedback. Moaning, I don't like it, isn't feedback. So me going, I want to go on my curver, that's not feedback. Telling them what worked, what didn't work, what you liked, some suggestions, that's feedback. So yeah, give the feedback. You can fire it over to Claire. I think she's going to hate that I've said that, but fire it over to Claire, fire it to me, and I'll pass it on as well. But other than that, I think I'll move on very quickly. Podcast news. There isn't really an awful lot, but I went out yesterday with some friends, and I found out that I'm very famous in Crawley because my nephew's at school, some of his friends said, is the podcast guy really your uncle? And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, can we meet him?
Yeah, Mom.
Sorry? So apparently Charlie's offered next time I pop round the house that they can come round and say hello. And I'm like, okay. And then niece, well, these are all close friends, so their kids are nephews and nieces. And niece was having a FaceTime conversation with a boy who may or may not have been a player. I'm not an academy player, not 100% sure. But she suddenly stopped and went, why is my Uncle Mike on the screen behind you? He was watching the podcast while talking to us. So I was like, yay, fame everywhere. But other than that, no, everything's carrying on as it is. So let's get to the match quickly. I've waffled a lot. So I didn't enter anything on the lineup, but I did genuinely get the 11 because I would have said only one change, which Josh coming in for Dylan. What do you guys feel of the lineup, and what was your expectations from the match, Neil?
I thought Naderson might start up front alongside Will. That was what I thought might be. I thought we might sort of finish up with the side that we had from half time at Tamworth. So I'd got 10 out of the 11. But he knows what he's doing, so I wasn't really complaining,
Yeah, you got to try and answer these questions without the benefit of hindsight. It's always hard because you're like, oh no, it all went perfectly well. Alex, what did you think of the lineup? What were you expecting from the match?
Yeah, I think that similar to Neil, I think it made sense that Josh came in not just because of the injury to Dylan, but also the fact that Josh scored as well. I think most often I'm in favour of if someone nabs a goal, particularly in the manner he did away to Tamworth, then you give him a start the next game, especially when Dylan's injured. So I think it made sense, and I would pick exactly the same 11 on Tuesday, assuming they're all fit enough.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, like I'm sort of thinking, well, what's with Naderson? I think that's his first goal in a year, and it may well just be we're getting him up to speed, but Will did superb yesterday. But I did think, I'll be honest, this may be the Sutton fan bias of, oh my God, everything's terrible, isn't it awful? I thought we looked quite shaky and passes were massively overhit and we just gifted them chances. I think Steve had a couple of saves to make in the first sort of 15, 20 minutes. Were you guys similar? You're both nodding, which is great audio, by the way. Was it...
Yes, Mike, I think
Were you kind of thinking the same thing, Alex? On
yeah, definitely. Yeah, completely agree. Our first 15, 20 minutes, not convinced. I think we were fortunate a couple of times where they struck shots straight at Steve. There was one, I can't remember the lad's name, but I think it's their winger, came inside onto his left foot, and if he hits it either side of Steve, which he probably should have done, he had the space to do so, it's a goal. But unfortunately, it was straight at him. Wasn't convinced first 20 minutes. I thought they looked nervous to be at home. I think they were feeling the pressure of, everyone coming down, glorious day. Let's see who you all are. You're all new. Come on, prove yourself to us. And I think you could see the nerves from that, but they stepped up and proved themselves, didn't they? Fair play.
Absolutely. I didn't know until Steve's video that it was all the big family day, because obviously that was one of the changes. Normally I'd be in around the bar saying loads of different people and kind of picking that up, but didn't quite get that. But Neil, what were you thinking for the first sort of 20 odd minutes?
As I said to the guys around me, it was the pitch. That was the problem. It was so slick. It was so fast. They had absolutely didn't. I wondered whether they'd actually played or even trained on it, but it was such a contrast with the last week. They were doing slight, sideways passes that were shooting out and going off and not controlling. And it took them 30 minutes or so. And I think actually it affected Altrincham a little bit. They were struggling to cope with the pace of the pitch. And it was, they had to learn how to play on it. And as they got used to it, so it very much played to our strengths. We want to play a fast passing game, get the ball forwards, and ultimately it worked. Altrincham helped us.
You could see it for the first goal, couldn't you? Because their guy misplaces his pass slightly, And actually, Josh doesn't initially react because it's only marginally away from their place. You think, we're probably going to get it. But the speed of the pitch, as you say, Neil, it suddenly fizzed through and was at Coley's feet. And then he thought, okay, I can go now. But the initial reaction was not quite there because I think we're not used to it. So, yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly, but I do know someone who shouldn't have did walk across the pitch on Friday, and the players had come out and they could just see these footprints walking across the pitch, and it was supposed to be that they were the first ones on. So I think Friday might have been the first day they actually got to be on it, and someone else had already walked across it who's very naughty. Wasn't me, absolutely not me. I don't step on the pitch unless I'm invited. But they seem to wilt, and maybe it's as Neil saying, we're getting our eye in with the pitch. But do we think it's because of the pressing? The sort of, I mean, the guys did keep it up, and it puts them under pressure a lot. And we then had 15 just glorious minutes. It was like I'm sitting there going, "What actually happened in those 15 minutes?" And I'm just trying to remember all. But Neil, what did you do you think it was the pressing game as well as the pitch, or was it just we got our eye in for that 15 minutes?
All through the pre-season, it's obvious we're going to play the pressing game. That's what we've done. The guys seem to be incredibly fit. They were still running around when we were 4-0 up, pressing, chasing the ball when you could have forgiven them. It was 23, 24 degrees. They could have had a stroll in the second half, but they carried on. Absolutely. Will Davies particularly ran himself into the ground, and he was a complete nuisance. And the same with Jaden Harris. They were just always there. And in the end, the Altrincham guys were just sort of panicking. There seemed to be no way out. There always seemed to be 4 Sutton players deep in their half, and even if they got it past them, then you'd have Lewis Simper and even the centre backs pushing up, taking up that space in midfield. So it was obviously that's going to be our way of playing, and they're fit enough to actually carry it out and not drop off.
Yeah, if they can do that in that heat, we've got no worries about January. So Alex, you agree? Do you think there was more to it, or?
I think I definitely agree. I think the fitness really stood out. I think you could being a bit cynical, you could say it is quite easy to run around a lot when you're 4-0 up in the sunshine and it's all going really well. But no, I do agree that they kept going. I think that's actually where it sort of flipped. You know, we mentioned earlier about the fact that it was the first home game and the families were there and there was a lot of expectation, put pressure on them. I actually think once we went ahead, it brought out the best of them because it was a kind of, puffy chest out. This is what we are. This is what we do. And that's why they kept it going for the whole game. My favorite thing about the press itself was, given the sort of 4-4-1-1 formation we're having with Will up top by himself and then Harris sort of playing number 10 role, you get a bolter for press. If you play 4-4-2, a couple of times we've seen it in the last few seasons, the sort of 2 strikers do their press a little bit, they amble a bit because, that's my man. Okay, I'll sort of jog over, he'll pass it, he'll press him. But because you've got Harris running out from midfield, it accelerates it and it makes it more intense. And I think that was a really, really big part of the game yesterday. As you said, Neil, Will running himself into the ground, but then Harris bolting from midfield to help him press, catches them by surprise more. And I think it really worked.
Excellent. Well, I was shell-shocked at halftime because I was like, is this a 4-0 performance? It didn't feel, obviously, again, this is the pessimistic bias coming in. Didn't feel like a 4-0. I know it was 4-0, but it didn't feel like it. But then thinking back, the keeper had actually made 2 good saves in the first half as well. So it could have been 6. So how were you at halftime? Were you kind of going with the Sutton fan route of, it's only 4-0 up, it could all go wrong now? Which apparently Steve said in the changing room, to be fair. You scored 4 goals in this half. They could score 4 goals in this half. So you've seen how quickly it can change. And I was like, he is buying into Sutton. But how are you sort of feeling at halftime? Or is it just bewildered? Neil, I'll start with you. I might start with you last time, but never mind that.
I sort of compared it in my mind with the Walsall 4-0, where we last season 4-0 up at halftime, when in fact Walsall had more better chances than us and were probably marginally the better side. So that was what I compared it with. I didn't think, we'd fall, drop off or fall away. I thought I expected the second half to be a bit of a boring 0-0, and they perhaps might get a consolation goal towards the end. So that's how it was playing out in my mind.
To stop all the clean sheet bonuses. Alex, what were you thinking at halftime?
Well, yeah, stunned. Also, mildly annoyed, only because I always predict, as you know, Mike, I always predict that we'll win 4-0. And for once, they, I underestimated them. I couldn't believe that we were 4-0 up at halftime. I thought we would get another one or possibly two in the second half. So I couldn't believe that I'd somehow managed to under-predict the score. I think the thing we were discussing at halftime is that obviously there's comparisons, as I'm sure we'll come on to, with the Notts County game last season, the first home game, or first game of the whole season, then with the 5 goals we scored then. This felt different because I appreciate Altrincham had a couple of sloppy moments, but everything went our way in the Notts County game. Errors from them galore, the red cards, all that kind of stuff. This felt like we were playing well, and we forced Altrincham into the errors they made rather than just being complete gifts, partly because of the press we discussed. And so much of the talk at halftime was the excitement around that aspect of it.
Yeah, we had to fight for the right to do. Oh God, no, we had to get in there to do. Yeah, too popular front. But the second half, things dropped off, which we now know that Steve was saying the clean sheet is now really important. But he was glad that we got a goal at our end. Well, they're both our ends now. But there was one little thing that I was like, oh, that needs to stop. Jaden managed to talk himself into a yellow card because I get it's the fighting thing. I get it, but the defender cleared it off of him to go out for what he thought should have been a corner, and it was a goal kick, and he was just livid with it, and it was like, we're 4-0 up. You don't need to get so stressed.
It was definitely a goal kick as well.
I think he was trying to say it came off him and then clipped the defender on the way, but it wasn't as obvious.
I couldn't believe he got so wound up about that.
Yeah, and he kept on talking. I was like, if he gets a red because of this, it's just going to go mad.
It just shows he cares. They all care. They want to play. They want to win.
They want to win. And
Tyler as well. He talked himself. Tyler talked himself into a booking in the first half, didn't he? Which I don't love because he's the captain, and God, don't want him to get sent off. But I do. I think Neil is right. The passion and the desire, and I do think it comes back to the things we were saying earlier about factoring in the first game of the season, the pressure, first home game of the season, the pressure of all of that. They're desperate to perform and do well. He went straight to the ref after we scored our third goal and was talking about his shirt being pulled and kept doing this and all that, and then eventually talked himself into a yellow. So it's where'd you come down on the passion versus just calm down a bit, don't get sent off.
It is, and Steve said this about this group as well. They all want to win, whatever they're doing, whether it's they're on the training ground doing one-on-ones or they're playing chess or whatever in the chain in the thingy area. So I'm guessing that they're deciding this individual battle is something they need to win. But I was just, we're 4-0 up. Come on. But it is showing that competitive spirit and the passion. Go on.
I like the mini huddle after the first goal. That was new. I don't know if you saw that after. I think it was after the first goal, Josh's goal. Tyler got everyone. I felt a bit sorry for Steve, very miles away in the goal. but the rest of them obviously had gone to celebrate in that corner, and he put them into a little huddle. And I imagine he was, focus up. There's only one. Come on, keep on it. A small thing, but I like that. Good leadership.
Yeah, and at the end, they all. It's something that didn't happen a lot last season, but they all came back over. To the end and was given all the fans.
That's why it makes so much difference having an end, doesn't it? It really felt like, with Siju doing the fist pumps, that really felt like almost what we've seen more in away trips where they've come over to the end. I thought that was fantastic.
It is definitely going to be, and again, not to keep harping on about it, but the young uns having their spot rather than having to move old vintage fans away from a spot. This is their new spot, so it was great. Ashley got off to a start with, again, first goal in about a year, which is great. I should keep calling it Ashley. I've got to try it. It's Nadazan. Nadazan? Yeah, that's about right. not Neasden anyway. But overall, I mean, the gate was 2,450 or something like that, which is about 550 lower than last season's average. But the first game, as a lot of people say, people are away or on holidays. And we kind of expected, I believe the figure they were working from was about 500 lower. So if we're only 50 down on what they're expecting, that's pretty damn good. And then more people are going to come after that. They're most definitely going to come and watch this. I wasn't sure what the noise sounded like from outside the rec end. You guys were sounding different places. Was it as good? And
sorry, no nodding. Yes, Mike, you're right.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to be controversial, Mike, and say I liked the drum.
That's been changed. We were all anti-drum because most drums we hear are shite, and the person can't play them. But Seb does really well.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was banging the wall.
No, he's got a drum.
No, it's a drum.
Yeah,
that makes sense because it was really good and really loud.
Yeah.
I thought his poor hand.
They went last year and negotiated with, can we bring a drum? And it was only one person's allowed to do it. And there's all sorts of things. And if there's any misbehaving from that group, they're out.
Sure.
But it was like, we don't want a drum. It's shit. It's rubbish. Blah blah blah. It's like,
that's great.
Actually, you know what? He's quite good. He's quite good at it. He's not overusing it. It's not a constant thing. Big shout out to Seb. That's well done. Even when you've got the old gits like me and Dan saying, no, we're not having drums. But it's really, really good. And it's easy to get caught up. So if you're a younger one and you come start and you don't know people, just go into that end because they're all super friendly. And there was one little thing that, you know how the Sutton fans are this young, disrespectful little gits and all the rest of it. Jenny was with me for quite a while, chatting. And then she said, I'm going off and I'm going to find some other people. And I wasn't really paying attention to what was going around me. And next thing, one of these kids kind of moved up to where Jenny was standing and 2 or 3 of them moved him away. And I'm kind of looking and they went, no, there's a lady standing there. She'll be back in a minute. And they moved him off. And I had to go, no, she's not coming back. I was like, oh my God, you're supposed to be horrible people. What's wrong with you? They were really, really nice people of space for someone as well. So is it too early for this to be any impact in the season? I mean, we've got 95.7% of the season to go. But what do you feel like the impact is, if there's any? I mean, I think they played with confidence aside from that first bit, but there's going to be even more work to do with getting on the same wavelength. And I think once they do, we will really, really play well. Alex, start with you. What do you think? Is it too early, or are you excited to see what's
it's definitely too early.
Well,
I think you can be excited as well. I think both things can be true. It's way too early to say what this means. Altrincham, as we have discussed, were pretty poor. I mean, I know we as I say, I do believe that we forced them into the mistakes that they made that led to some of our goals, and that is a great thing. But they weren't a particularly good side from what we saw even before then. A better side would have capitalised on our nervy first half an hour. So I think it's early to be making season predictions and all that kind of stuff. Having said that, different to Notts County last season because of how well we played versus just getting lucky in basically every respect. Completely agree with your point, Mike, that if this is what they're doing now, having still a relatively new group of players learning how each other work and starting to trust each other and build those relationships on the left wing and the right wing and the centre backs and all that kind of stuff, that can only get better. And that is the thing that I am most excited by, not so much what it means for the season yet, but the fact that they're doing this already, and it presumably with the training, getting to know each other will improve. That is definitely exciting. And there's some real players in that squad.
Yeah, absolutely. Neil, what about you? Is it too early, or are we calling promotion now?
It's far too early, but it's living up to my pre-season prediction, which was with this group of players, we'll win a few 4-0. We'll potentially, because they're young and inexperienced, lose a few 4-0 and probably draw a few 4-4. So far, But I suspect that we're going to be, in and around the right end of the table come Christmas. But I think there's going to be a bit of a roller coaster between then and now, and it's far too easy to get carried away.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
just the same. If we'd lost 4-0, I would have said, it's not going to define the season, because there's a heck of a long way to go.
There was a reason for that. So apparently, on the coach back from Tamworth last week, there were people on the coach saying, "Well, we're 2 points worse off than the opening game last season, and we got relegated last season. So that means we're going to get relegated this season, and now we're a point better off than we were last season. So clearly, we're going to win." Have we learned much about the side or any particular players? I mean, you can take your pick whether you want to say anything we've learned, or was it as you expected? Alex, I'm going to go first for you because you kind of pulled the I don't know face.
Yeah, did we learn much? I don't know that we did, because once the first couple of goals go in and it's a romp away in the sunshine, everyone plays really well. They're full of confidence. It's all going swimmingly. Fantastic. That's great. And I think the points that we've made about them continuing the fitness and pressing to the end of the match, even despite being so many goals ahead on a hot day, it's really good. And that can only bode well. And I think that speaks to a mindset that Steve has instilled within them, which is a really positive thing. Have we learned much about individual players yet? I don't know that we have. I mean, there are a few, most of them, I think you could walk away saying, yeah, he played well yesterday. Yeah, he was good, and all that kind of stuff. And there's obviously a couple that stood out for me. I thought Simper in the midfield was excellent. Thought he looked really, really good on the ball. His touch and cross for the 5th goal, fantastic. And I thought Nana on the wing looks really exciting. But as I say, you could talk about Harris, you could talk about Davies, you could talk about Siju, you could talk about the centre backs. A lot of them, on a day that goes as well as yesterday did, you could talk about most of them. So I think I don't think I know much has changed about how I feel about the squad and the players yet, other than it's going in the right direction.
Perfect. Neil?
Sorry, a bit of a diplomatic answer.
That's fine. Neil?
I'd say there's a lot more footballing skill throughout the entire squad. We've got more players who are two-footed. Players are much more comfortable on the ball, and I think we thought we'd got depth in the squad last season. I think actually we've got genuinely more depth in the squad this year when they're playing well. But as I said, because of their youth and relative inexperience, they're going to have more bad games in them. So I think consistency will be harder to achieve with this squad at the moment. But I'm impressed. I think they're a far better collection of players than we perhaps dared hope for.
Yeah, I think we need to see things going bad before we can actually learn much about them. Because then, if it goes bad, you'll learn more about how they react to it and how they cope with things going against them.
Let's see him 1-0 down at home, and the fans are getting frustrated. And there's moans and groans. Let's see how it. Yeah. The 2-foot point is an interesting one, because I think the first 3 goals, so Josh and Jaden and Will all scored with their weak foot. Right? Was it? That's a good point you raised, Neil. Yeah. I think that is, promising. If more 2-footed players can only be a good thing.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to almost finish with this game, but there's a good, the bad, and the funny. I got copyrighted flagged for that one last week. I got away with the ABBA one. I got copyrighted for that. I was like, really? But so what was... It's going to be a nice quick one. What was good from yesterday? Neil, we'll start with you. What was good from yesterday?
I think the 5th goal was a thing of beauty. It was perfect off the training ground, out from the back, down the channel. Simper, a perfect cross, and Ashley, that was a fabulous goal. It was the perfect goal.
Perfect. I mean, was that did Simba do some amazing footwork for that cross, or was it for a cross just before it?
He sort
It
of
was a different
cushioned it on his right foot, then came back and whipped it in with his left.
Yeah.
Stunning.
No, it was a different one. Alex, what was good for you?
I decided to pick something that was not during the game because I couldn't decide.
This is the whole match day.
Seedrew's fist pumps in front of the new home end at the end. That was the thing that brought the biggest smile to my face, probably, because it was just sort of that recognition that we've got a home end. The reception they gave the players at the end of the match was fantastic, and him doing the fist pumps, I could get used to that.
I did think when he did it, I was like, "Oh, you've set yourself up now." It's going to be every time.
He could quickly be a fan favourite, that boy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I think he already is. I mean, he's got at least one stalker, hasn't he? Hasn't he? Jenny sponsored him. And it's just like, what was bad? Match day experience, just anything. What was bad? Travel works, trains, whatever you like.
Well, I've already said it. The A3 roadworks, basically, I'm afraid, that was the only downside in the entire. Or apart from the fact that you forgot to bring me my shirt, but
you forgot to remind me.
Yeah.
You can rely on my memory.
For me, it was the fact that I always predict 4-0 and they won 5-0.
For me, it was seeing the curve empty. I get it, but it was like. If there was people
it was quite
there.
funny when Will scored and ran over to celebrate over there. There's just no one there.
Oh, and I got to introduce Paul to Josh, because Josh when he scores, he seems to run in the opposite direction to where Paul is. So all these pictures that Paul get of his great goals and his great celebrations are usually at the back. The one he got this week was a good one, but it's like, Josh, you know where he is. Run to him. What was funny? Alex, start with you.
My dad recreating Jaden Harris's celebration in the sort of, I don't know, I think, is it called the griddy? I dread to think if I'm pronouncing that right or if I've got it right, but it's something with your feet and then the head goes back and forward and the hands sort of come up like this. And my dad started recreating it, and that was fantastic.
Oh, that's a TikTok one. Neil, what's funny for you?
I've got a funny peculiar and a funny ha-ha.
Whichever you want. Go on.
So the funny peculiar was watching the game from the opposite side of the ground, because that was just odd. It just seemed
discombobulating, I think, is the word.
Definitely the word. And with all the thing on the social media about Altrincham and all that sort of thing, not only with them making ALD the abbreviation for Altrincham, they actually spelt Altrincham with a G for when they had the scoreline down at the bottom on National League TV. So basically, even when the football supposed experts get something as badly wrong as that, it just made me laugh.
Yeah, that wasn't our lot.
Maybe they're just buying into our social media campaign.
I can't tell you how many times I've written Altrincham with the G. Yeah. I'm like, why'd they call it Altrincham? It's Altrincham. But for me, there was loads. I did have. Well, there was one that could have been funny, should have been funny, but it got ruined, which is probably funny. So the Jacksons all decided to have a picture on the giant deck chair, and I kind of said, they're a pain to get out of. And I was taking the picture for him. And I said, I'm going to take a video of you getting out of it. And Lynn was not overly impressed with that. It was her phone. So it wasn't I was going to do anything with it. She wasn't impressed with it and got out of it straight away with no fuss whatsoever. And I was like, fuck's sake, I've got some content here. But yeah, the all the little stuff they did in the fan zone was really great. I know it's going to take people a bit of time to get on board with it. But there was ice cream yesterday, I'm sure you noticed. And all sorts, and the queues weren't too bad. It got bad closer to kick off, but it was really good. So, but yeah, the funny thing was, it's a funny that should have been. Right, we're going to do the free Q preview, and we spoke to Paul, who is a host of Stones Cast, and he's actually the commentator for tomorrow night. So if anyone's watching on TV, you'll hear his voice. So I'm going to try and get this right. This one went on for a little bit longer than I had expected. So please bear with, but we'll just listen to what Paul has to say. We are back for our free Q preview. We're going to get insights of our upcoming opponents, fans, and we are joined by Paul, and he supports Wildstone. and we're just going to hear a little bit more of what he has to say. But before we start, tell us a little bit about yourself and your Wealdstone history and why you support them and whatnot.
Yeah, a bit of a funny one, really, Mike. This is my 8th season following Wealdstone. I played a bit of non-league, lower league, non-league football, sort of in my 20s and then 30s, and I started to want to watch football again. And my little boy was keen to go along, so I took him to watch Cheshire United, which is our local side as well, and Wealdstone. And at the time, my dad was a Wealdstone player in the 70s. So they did a feature of him in the programme, invited him along. And my little lad was a little bit impressed that everyone knew who Grandad was, from school and football. And they treated us well. So we gave him a decision. We sort of said to him, who do you want to go and watch? He said, can we go and watch Wealdstone? And from that point on, we sort of chose them and started to watch them home and away. And I've got 2 other children. They come. My sister and her family come. So it's a real family affair. My mum's from Wealdstone originally. She worked at the old Lower Mead ground when they had that in the 70s and 80s when she was a sort of teenager and young adult. So, and her dad was a bus driver for the Amateur Cup final in the 60s. So there's a little bit of a family connection. So it's sort of resonated with us and we've thoroughly enjoyed it. They're a great football club. They're very welcoming. We go as much as we can. And we're in the National League for a bit of fun. It's a good ride, isn't it? It's there's lots of ups and downs, but we enjoy it, and it's a good family thing to do.
That's excellent. I mean, when you said we went along to watch Cheshire and they were playing Wealdstone, I was like, yeah, you've always got to be really careful with this first match, because one of my mates brought his son to Tottenham, Manchester United, and his whole family support Tottenham, and Man United battered them, and my nephew's now a Man United fan. It's like,
well,
you should have gone local, mate.
No, yeah, it was a similar thing. I think we went to Hitchin away, and it was 1-1 in a really cold December night. And then we took him to a Beaconsfield away game, and Chesham got beat about 6-0, I think. The manager got sacked soon after, and obviously they've done very well since Chesham, got into National League South. And at the same time, we went and watched Wealdstone, and I think his mind was made up because Cheshire had got battered 6-0. Wealdstone, I think, won, and were very welcoming. So he said, we'll go back and watch Wealdstone. So, no, you're right. First games do count and matter, right?
Absolutely. Never take them to a Premier League game. So you are host or co-host of the Stonescast podcast?
Yeah, there's a whole group of us that contribute, and I sort of share the hosting with 2 or 3 others, and I actually do the commentary as well for National League TV on behalf of Wealdstone. So I will be behind the microphone on Tuesday night for Sutton. That is my designated match, because there's 3 of us that do it. So we swap so that we get to obviously watch the game with friends and family rather than being behind the microphone every home match. So so I'll be there on Tuesday night commentating against Sutton. So please be kind to me if you're watching and listening.
I have to tell you how to say all the names.
No, please do, yeah.
So what were your expectations coming into this season, and how kind of has it gone so far compared? So I know it's only 2 games in, but how was pre-season compared to expectations as well?
God blimey. So you know what, Mike? It was a really difficult one, because I don't know if you know, but we lost Stuart Maynard to Notts County in February time last year, and David Noble came in from St Albans, and it really didn't go too well, and the chairman and board had to make a decision to get rid of him and let Sam Cox take the reins till the end of the season. So we really were sort of up against it right up until the back end, and we did survive, and I never feared we were going to go down, but there was a lot of fear of that. And then in the pre-season, we've had Matt Taylor come in, the ex-Walsall manager, the ex-Premier League footballer for the likes of West Ham and Bolton and Portsmouth. So a bit of an unknown at this level, hasn't done too brilliantly at League One, League Two, wherever it is he's managed before. So it was a bit of a summer of transition. We've gone from part-time Tuesday and Thursday nights to 2 mornings a week and 1 evening, a full-time manager, full-time strength and conditioning coach. So there's little steps off the field that the club are trying to make to stabilise and do well in the National League. But clearly on the field, it's a different challenge. And I think this season with the league as it is, the likes of you guys coming in with Forest Green, who are a stable set of football clubs rather than a bit of a basket case, along with the likes of maybe Oldham and Barnet and Southend getting their act together, everyone sees this opportunity because there isn't a Notts County, a Wrexham, a Stockport, a Chesterfield to sort of run away with the league, if you like. So our expectations, realistically, Mike, is just to stay in the league. You know, after the scare of last year with the new manager, we had to have a turnover in our squad. We've just got to stay in the league. We've got a really good future looking if we get a new ground and investment, but that can only really happen, I guess, if we stay in the National League. So the pressure is on that sense. So fifth from bottom is what we would want, you know, and I think there's a lot of fear that we're going to be relegation candidates, the relegation favourites. How it started, bit indifferent, really. No wins out of 2. We're in the game in both games. You know, it wasn't like we've been battered. Dagenham, I think we gave their goals away too easily, and we've missed a gilt-edged chance at 1-1. And you know that again, that would flip the game. And do we go on and win? Yesterday, similar thing. You know that their centre half or the fullback has made an unbelievable tackle at 0-0. We've not scored. They've gone down the other end, and in my view, they've got a bit of a jammy goal, and they've walked away from the Vale with a 1-0 win, and that's what good big teams do in the National League. And if you want aspirations of getting promoted, you've got to take those results. So the problem I sort of fear is, where do we get our next points from? You guys are coming on Tuesday night off the back of a good win. We then go to Hartlepool away, the next 2 games, an example. You know, you're looking 4 games in, 1 month in, no points on the board potentially, and it can be quite damaging because previously with Wealdstone, we've always got points on the board early and built that basis to try and almost get to Christmas and not fumble your way between Christmas and the end of the season, but it helps, right? The pressure is off. So that's where we're at. I've got to be honest, I'm not looking forward to having you guys come down on Tuesday after yesterday's result, but we'll see how it goes. Listen, we always put the lads put a shift in. There's 100% effort. There is quality in the team, no doubt about that. I think we just got to be a bit more clinical and you know, we will get those wins, we will get those draws, but it's got to come quickly.
Yeah. So again, early days, but how are you seeing the strengths and weaknesses at the moment, at this point in the season? What do we need to look out for? What could we possibly exploit?
I would suggest the middle of the midfield. I mean, I know we spoke with Cameron about the miss of Craig Eastman, and you know, don't want to disappoint any Sutton fans who like Craig, but I don't think he'll be playing Tuesday night. From what I understand, I could be wrong, and he may make an appearance, but he hasn't played since I think the second from last game of pre-season. So the centre of the midfield is where we'll probably lack a little bit, Mike. You know, in terms of strength and presence, we've got a lot of young lads in there. Suggest lightweight, you know, no disrespect to them, but you know, they're not your 6'2" strapping rugby league looking centre midfield players. So yeah, maybe that's you know, we've got Alex Dyer in there who's done very well, but you know, can he last 65, 70 minutes? We lost Christian Scott yesterday to a red card on his debut, so he won't be available. So I think just that lack of creativity and presence in midfield is somewhere I think that we will struggle. And against Oldham yesterday, you know, where that matchup was a little bit imbalanced. The rest of the side, you know, our back four's good, has been. You've got Georgia at left back and, you know, Cook, our dependable centre half with Adrian Mariappa, who's been a really good signing for us. And I mean, there's a little bit worry over the goalkeeper. I've not seen anything too much to worry about him in terms of his goalkeeping. His passing and distribution, I think, you know, me and you could be better stood on the terraces, Mike, but that's for another day. So, yeah, listen, Wealdstone will put Sutton under a lot of pressure. They did with Oldham. It's just having that bit of quality in both boxes. We just need that bit more. Okay,
and you mentioned Craig and said if any Sutton fans like him, every Sutton fan will like him. But you've also got one of our another old boy, Enzio.
Yeah.
How's he been? How's he playing? He's another great guy. Love him.
Yeah, no, and again, I think he's part of that experienced 3 or 4 that Matt Taylor's tried to, or the club have tried to recruit with Eastman, Mariappa, Enzo. You know, we need that a little bit of know-how with such a young squad that we have. I mean, he's not pulled up any trees, if I'm honest, Mike, but, you know, I don't think any of them have. You know, you won't look at the team now and say, Enzio's the man to give the ball to him and he'll do a bit. You know, last year we had Taran Alarakia, who's gone on to Rochdale. are we missing that sort of creative spark? That's something that will just get the crowd going. But he's a dependable, hard-working, good footballer, and that's what we need at Wealdstone. We need a constant squad, a squad that's constantly the same sort of level, whatever level that is. And Enzo definitely fits into that. And I would imagine his experience is invaluable to that team in that dressing room and at training, etc. as well. So he's a good guy to have.
Enzo won't like this, but he's a great player to have in the team on the bench, because he can kind of switch around different positions, and he's played left back, right back, left wing, right wing, and I think centre mid for us as well. So he's definitely a player that you would like to have in the team.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, he's been starting the last 2 games on the right hand side rather. So if he can play inside, if he can play as fullback, that's going to help the squad, because it's not the biggest and most experienced. So I hopefully, that's one of the reasons they probably signed him.
Yeah. So as for the game itself, how do you see the match going, and what can we kind of expect from your players manager?
Definitely a hard-working sort of side performance, rather. Yesterday against Oldham, who are one of the bigger teams in the league, which Sutton will be seen as just putting them under a bit of pressure, Mike. Just not making them play. I don't know how Sutton play, how Sutton set up. It'd be interesting to see that, especially with their sort of turnover of squad and the relatively new manager. So, I think he favours like almost like a 4-4-2. I would suggest is probably what he favours. Slightly more direct than what we've been used to under Stuart Maynard, where Stuart played through the thirds, if you like, and was a ball retention team. Whereas it feels with Taylor that he can be slightly more direct, and they do press. Whereas with Stu's team, sometimes they dropped a little bit, so that there is more of a press in the team, and they're fit enough to do that, which is a really good thing to do. It's just, can we create a bit of quality to get some chances away? I think, we created 1 or 2 yesterday, maybe the same at Dagenham. So, you guys got 5 at Altrincham, which is, is unheard of. You shouldn't be scoring 5 at Alty. That's the sort of team that don't let those sorts of goals in. So my fear is that you're good going forward. You're a good attacking side. And I guess from what I read on Twitter feeds, etc., was that Sutton were quite clinical. And that's something that we're not. So, I think if Sutton turn up and are clinical, then we could be in for a long evening.
Finally, the one that everyone always loves. What's your score prediction?
I'd love to say that Wealdstone will win, and I'm going to say that Sutton will win. So hopefully Wealdstone win off the back of that. But I think Sutton will probably win 3-1. Like I said, it's the first time seeing them, so it's a purely sort of a finger in the air going on what you've done before. Tamworth away is always going to be difficult. A new team in the league, they're going to be up for it. It's going to be a bit like a cup final. But to go to Altrincham away and score 5 is unbelievable.
It was at home. Altrincham was at home.
Sorry,
it's still 5, but it was at home. Yeah, Tamworth was away.
So, I mean, to get a draw in the first league game, that's no disgrace. Get yourself settled down, and then to bag 5 at home. Sorry, I thought it was away. I'm a little bit fearful, Mike. I'm a little bit fearful. So, if you hear that in my voice on the commentary on Tuesday night, please don't laugh. But you never know. Wealdstone will put a shift in. I can guarantee that. That's a given. They won't be. Well, I'd like to think they're not going to be outclassed. They won't be outplayed. They won't be outfought. They'll be in the game. It's just whether we can take our chances if we create them and be, more better in the box to not let these goals in. But we'll see how we go.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much, Paul. I'm sure lots of us will enjoy listening to you on Tuesday night, because with it being a midweek, we can watch it. Take care and good luck for most of the season, obviously.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me on, and safe journey to everyone on Tuesday night. Enjoy your visit to the Vale, and may the best team win.
Right, it puts us on mute straight away. He seemed very impressed with what we did, which is always good. I think my big mistake there, and it lasted quite a long time, was asking about ex-players. I don't think I'll do that with other teams because that took the conversation off track a little bit. But Alex, what did you think of what they'd say? Was it something you were expecting, or how do you see anything going from what you heard there?
Yeah, I think it's interesting the fact that you said they were in both games, and despite starting with 2 losses, very much in the games, which is good from their perspective. I think I don't want to be too confident, but his main point really was how much of a shift they will put in. He was talking about that being a guarantee, the effort and everything. As we've touched on, our fitness is looking really good, and the shift was put in yesterday. It was put in away to Tamworth with the goal in the last minute there as well. That is something we should be able to match them at, if not better them at. And therefore, if we do that with better players and the confidence that we've got, what could possibly go wrong?
That was one of Sir Matt Busby's things.
4-0. 4-0.
He used to tell his players, all they've got is strength and stamina, and if you can match them in that, then that's it. They've won the game. Neil, what was your thoughts? I mean, you seem to have gone dark on us, so we may not see you. I don't know, but
I'm still here.
I can see you're still there, and Alex is frowning at me, so maybe he can still see you.
I can see.
But excellent. So what did you think of what Paul had to say, and anything you picked up from there?
He seemed a bit downbeat, so he's not overwhelmed with the optimism. So that seems to me that's a classic Sutton banana skin, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if anybody's going to slip over on the team that's low in confidence, haven't got any players, and all that sort of thing, it will be us, because I'm sure we can find a way. That is Sutton United.
That's old Sutton. I mean, it's going to be interesting that it might be a completely different game, because he's mentioned as the centre mid being the point that they're worried about. And I would imagine before watching this, Steve would have done some research and probably would find that's similar. And he may well decide that we're going to not attack the flanks at all and just pack through the middle. I mean, it's going to lead us on to the nice part of it. Everyone loves this. The prediction league. Alex may have already given away his thoughts. Code is on the screen. I've actually made this a bit smaller because I realised I was watching a couple back last year. My beautiful face was covering some of the code, so you should now be able to just beep it on screen, and also tell me if these things happen so I can actually fix them.
It's still covering part of it, Mike.
No, I can see it. It's not.
And on mine is.
Right, I'll have another look at that. But the prediction league last week, we didn't have any maximums, which is going to be actually really difficult to get this year. But the closest we got was a team called Richardson's, who got the correct outcome, the correct Altrincham goals, and the correct first goal scorer. So they got 6 out of the 8 points. And the league table has gone into the invite list on your calendars. So, Neil, I think you're actually second. Yeah. Hang on. Yeah, you're second on 9 points out of the 2 games. And Pessimistic PC, I wonder who that could be, Chalmers. He's with 10 points out of the 2 games. So, but it's lots to play for. Everyone should join into this. It's lots of fun. But what is your actual prediction, Alex? Go on.
4-0.
4-0.
I'm sorry. It is. Do you know what? It would be regardless, because I predict what I want to happen. But it is after what we've just heard about Wilson and after the performance yesterday. Yeah, 4-0. Jaden Harris, first goal scorer for me.
Excellent. Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, I've been saying which goal scorer I want. I'm actually going for Josh both times anyway. But Neil, you're now back on my screen. That's amazing. What's your prediction? And by the way, you can obviously change it before you enter. Don't worry.
I'm sort of vacillating a bit, and I've got to try and put Chalmers off the scent. But I think it might be a 2-1 to us, and I'm still sticking with Lewis Simper is going to get our first goal.
Okay, I've got really bad news for you.
No, you're not doing 2-1.
2-1?
No. Oh.
57 in a row wrong now, but 2-1. And I'm going with Josh for the first goal because he's telling me when I was like, "Oh, you're top goal scorer," and he come back with, "I want it." All right, fair enough. So yeah, I'm going with Josh again for first goal.
Oh,
3
I
in a
might
row.
have to change now.
You
Oh,
probably
that's-
will have to change
oh,
it.
no. Oh.
I give you 4-0, Neil. I give it to you. Take it. Use it.
But we are going to wrap up this episode, which I've kept you way longer, and it's a much longer episode than it should have been, but never mind. You will love it. It's an oral and visual treat. As always, we appreciate your attention and feedback. There's lots of questions for you to get involved in. What does your normal match day look like, and how does that differ this season? What's your good, bad, and the funny for the match day that just went on? Follow, like, share this episode at Sutton Podcast on all social medias. Subscribe on the podcast to the podcast on your preferred platforms. I've mixed that up, and leave us a review if you want. I get that little bit of dopamine when I get all the likes and the thumbs up and whatnot. We will be back on Wednesday with Jenny and another Neil, not this Neil, because he's panicked and gone, I wasn't down for Wednesday. But we are with Jenny and Neil, and they're going to talk about the Wealdstone away. Neil's making his debut, which will be a good one because obviously it's with Jenny, so he won't need to actually talk much. But get the questions sent in, and we will get them on the podcast. Thanks always to our sponsors, Lucky Star Gin. Big thank you to today's panel, Alex and Neil, and obviously Paul as well. Thanks to your listeners. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of Sutton Podcast, and take care, and we will catch up soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Up the use.
United! 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 United!